Welcome to Missing Movies. We're here today with Maggie Greenwald, filmmaker, and we are going to talk about a number of success stories that Maggie's had. So welcome to the
Thank you.
conversation. Okay.
Thanks, Rich. Very glad to be here.
So Maggie, why don't we just start with a movie that's been restored and is re-released, The Ballad of Little Joe.
Sure.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the path to getting that movie restored?
Well, I fortunately have always owned the rights to the Ballad of Little Joe. So when it went out of re-release, had the privilege of putting it in storage for many years and thank
Mm,
storage. And then I guess I looked all this up this morning for our conversation. I think back in 2021, I realized this, my work was just languishing and disappearing. And my friend Beth B mentioned that her work was being restored and re-released by Kino. And so I contacted Brett Wood there, and he was familiar with my work, loved it, and was immediately interested in restoring and re-releasing the Ballad of Little Joe and the Kill Off.
great,
Um,
great.
uh,
Now,
yeah.
now on Little Joe. So you always owned it. How did that work? I mean, initially, how was that film put together?
Ira Deutschman, the one and only great and wonderful Ira Deutschman, our friend, put it together. He was the head of Fine Line, and it was one of the first films he decided to make. And then it took him, I think, like 2 years to put together the other half of the money to make the film. And he was, uh, my lawyer, John Sloss, asked as part of the negotiations that I own the copyright, and Ira generously agreed. So on
Wow.
the license ran out after 17 years. Um, the film belonged to me.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's one of the things that, we're trying to preach to young filmmakers is beware of that and
Mhm.
understand what you're signing. I like to caution everybody when they see the term work for hire, uh, make sure that you're being hired and paid, uh,
Yeah.
and that it's actually a work that someone's bringing to you
Yeah.
to create, not that you are walking in with a finished screenplay
Yeah.
and all and of course,
Those were kind of the last of the days when we indie filmmakers had a chance to actually own our films, I think,
yeah.
and control them, really.
Although there's a lot being made now, for example, I guess Ryan Coogler with Sinners,
Yeah.
apparently he gets it back in 25 years, which
Which
is
is
awesome.
amazing for a $1 billion movie, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's an awesome deal.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and so there was a 17-year license with Fine Line, which was part of New Line, which became part of Warner Brothers. Uh, but
I
then
don't know where it became. It
right,
just, Fine Line, New Line disappeared, and the film, was on Amazon.
right. Now the materials where the so those materials were originally with Fine Line
Yeah.
and were transferred back to you. What did you do?
I kept them at the same storage facility and just took over the account
Okay.
for the materials, and didn't really take a close look at that until it was time. I think I sort of got active with all of this around 2020, 2021, when I realized my work was disappearing.
Mm.
And I contacted the Academy Film Archives, and around 2020 or 2021 transferred the material to the Academy Film Archives, which has been storing it since.
Got it. Got it.
Um,
Okay. And then now you mentioned before the kill off. That's one that was a little more. of a
Oh, that was
circuitous.
a work for hire.
It was,
Yes, it was a work for hire. I think I got paid $10,000 to make it.
right?
And I think the budget was about $200,000. And
Okay.
I made that film first. I made that film in 1989, and it was really a great team. Lydia Pilcher produced it. I think it was her first producing job, and
Mhm.
Declan Quinn shot it. It was his first feature, and Evan Lurie scored it. So it was a
Nice.
very nice movie, and premiered at what became the Sundance Film Festival in
Mhm.
1980.
Right.
Mm. And went on to having a really kind of tragic story of distribution, and kind of disappeared. It had a much more notable release in the UK.
And what was that distribution story? Just
Uh,
briefly.
well, to be honest, the really you know good guy, Alex Cogan, who owned films around the world. He was very inexperienced in the film business when he acquired films around the world and decided to make some movies.
Mm.
And so he offered me $200,000 to make any movie I wanted. And he really didn't know how to sell the
Mm.
film or what to do. And he entrusted it to someone at his company who really just messed everything up,
Mm.
and it almost went unreleased. And then a small company, it was it was quite noticed at the in the Cannes market that year in 1990,
Uh-huh.
because The Kill Off had actually preceded The Grifters and preceded After Dark, My Sweet. I was the first person to option a Jim Thompson novel in over 20 years.
Mm.
And so the film got made first, but ended up coming out after the others. So there was quite, a lot of people were really paying attention to his work at that time. It was really making a comeback.
Right.
So it got a lot of attention in the market in Cannes that year. But then Alex just really didn't know what to
Yeah.
do,
Yeah. And
honestly. It was
it
just tragically mishandled.
right. And it ultimately was released, but in a
Yes.
small way.
Very tiny, and by a new company that disappeared within like a year or two after that.
Mhm.
And kind of it was finally released after, all the brouhaha about it. It was kind of, over a year later or 2 years later, year and a half later or something like
Right.
that. The moment was missed.
So so now I take it that that also meant that the film didn't see much of an afterlife in terms of DVD, Blu-ray streaming.
Not streaming. Alex, did put VHS out and DVDs, but he never invested the money in, making quality transfers. So,
Mhm.
um, DVDs were available in VHS, but they were all one light. And the film is
Mm.
very, very dark. It was, quite unusual at the time. It was very gritty, very dark, contrasty lighting.
Uh-huh.
Went with the idea of the people, being characters who lived in the dark, in the shadows.
Right.
And um, so as a one light transfers look terrible, and I don't know who bought them. I don't even know where, they were probably available on Amazon, but I don't know. Maybe some aficionados of Jim Thompson bought them.
Oh, I'm sure, it's that's a situation we've seen a lot of. I mean, there were, with some of our films, there were copies being sold for 200 and $300, and and then you'd turn around and somebody else was, selling it for, a buck 50.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
exactly, exactly.
So when did you so around you're saying that you started around 2020, 2021 to realize that with
Well,
all of your work, but this
I
one.
yeah, I knew. I mean, I was inspired by Beth B, and it just, was like a light bulb going off. Like, okay, you're of an age, your work is of an age, it's disappearing. Can it have another life, and how does it have another life?
Right.
And, Ballad was, I mean, Brett responded within an hour to my email. So it was, really, uplifting
Mhm.
to
Sure.
be reminded that, my work had a good reputation,
Yeah.
was of interest and desirable. So, but I knew that, I didn't think Alex Cogan, just given the history with films around the world, I didn't think he would do anything with it, and, I didn't think he would let me have it, um, and
Mm,
then I found out that he had died. He had
mm,
passed away, and I called his wife, and, I looked all this up this morning for our conversation. I called her in October of 2021 during the pandemic,
mm.
and, to offer my condolences. And then we had, she said they were trying to sell films around the world, sell the catalog. And I made, some minor attempt to help. I had no idea how you would sell a whole library of films.
Right.
And, and then, I don't know, a couple of months later, she said that they had sold it.
Mm,
I was in touch with her a few times, and I found out who they sold it to, a company called Cinedigm, and, which I had never heard of, and and that was on October 26th, 2021. I got that email, and that
okay.
was the beginning of the journey
Huh.
to track the film down and see if I could acquire it or could do something with it. And, so
And
that was the beginning of that, and then, uh I got sidetracked. I tried to contact somebody at, Cinedigm, and nobody responded to
mhm,
me, and I
mhm.
didn't even know who to. I had no name there, nobody knew anybody there.
Ah, right.
Even my attorneys, my attorney didn't know anybody there, and so I just got it was the pandemic. I got preoccupied with
Sure.
Ballad, with the restoration with Ballad, and I just said, "Okay, we'll see what happens."
Uh-huh.
And when I got back to it, which was 2024,
Uh-huh.
and, October 2024, so 3 years later, and I was emailing with Ira Deutschman, or Ira, again.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
said, "Do you know anyone at Cinedigm?" And he said, "Well, it's now Cineverse, and why don't you email Susan Margolin,
Oh, okay.
because she used to work there."
Oh, okay.
And
Great.
then, that was kind of the beginning of the process that became a 2.5-year process, but where I
Mhm.
finally had contact with the company and knew that they had the film.
And now clearly they bought this library, but what were they doing with it?
Well, I don't know what they were doing with it, and I still don't know what they're
This
doing
is
with it.
this is my thing. I was saying this morning to someone. It's like this concept that some of the wording I just object to. The idea of a library to me is it's some place where things are well kept, organized, and are accessible. That to me is kind of what a library is.
Yeah.
They throw these terms around like a film library, but clearly, what what are you doing? If why,
Well, that was the question. So, I connected um, with someone. I think, they're in their legal department. I drafted an email, never heard. I'm gonna not name names
No,
in
no, no.
conversation. I'm
Right,
pretty gracious. So
right.
he did not respond to me, and then Susan gave me another name,
Mm,
and I did get a response from the next person I contacted, who was, is someone in business affairs, and
okay,
she, put me in touch with someone in operations, and they responded, and then I sent another email, and they responded to me and said, that they were in the process of ingesting. That's their word, ingesting the
Doesn't
elements.
doesn't sound good.
They were ingesting the elements of all the films around the world, films that they
Sounds like a big job.
it sounds like a very big bite, and, a whale-sized
Ugh,
bite, and, so I said I figured I'd leave her alone, and then I contacted her 6 months later because, of course, I hadn't heard from her, and then
right.
I never heard back.
Oh, oh,
So, let's see, it was not and then just every, um, like 2 months or something, I would send a group email to everybody whose name and email address I had at Cineverse.
that's a great
Legal person, the
tactic.
business person, the operations person. I got some other names, I don't even know who they are. It was just like a group email just saying, "This is who I am.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I'd love to know if you're gonna do anything with the film. I hope you are, but if you're not,
Mhm.
I'm very interested in buying the rights back."
Mm.
And I never no one responded to me for 2 years. But, Rich, I'm an independent filmmaker,
That's
so,
right. That's right. Yeah.
a dog with a bone. Um, and then it was just really good fortune, as, is the story of all of our careers. A close friend of mine who's a, fairly prominent director, Patricia Regan,
Mhm.
was on a panel with this first person I contacted at Cineverse, Yolanda Macias. There
Mhm.
was a new business affairs department, and they were on a panel together and connected. And Patricia mentioned her name to me, and I went, "Oh my God, would you email her for me?"
Mm.
And so Patricia emailed Yolanda, and then she responded immediately.
Okay. Good.
And that set the ball in motion. And then it was only a few months until I was able to complete the deal.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I mean, and I won't ask you for any numbers, but you were able to buy it back at something that was quite affordable
Well, they
selling.
initially, offered me honestly a silly thing when came up with a number that was what I could afford,
Right.
and, kind of going down from what Household Saints
Hmm.
and Mississippi Masala were valued out
Yeah.
in the big marketplace, which means nothing to us as independents, but, um and they didn't laugh at it at all. You know, the f they what they did say that the film, what we all know, the film needed to be restored
Well,
and
absolutely. Yeah.
be re-released, and they did not feel that it was worth the 7 or $8,000 to restore the film on
Right.
their part. But
Right.
they offered me a ridiculous deal. They said, "Well, if you buy the copyright and you spend the money to restore it, we'll release it on a non-exclusive basis."
Yeah. No, no.
And I I know. And I was just like, "What am I missing something here? No, why
Yeah.
on earth would you suggest this to me? Because this would be a silly deal."
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just wrote a really heartfelt
Mhm.
email to them, and I said, "Look, this has no value to you. I understand that.
Right.
In the scale of your big business, it
Right.
doesn't. You're just gonna throw this movie away. Please
Right.
let me buy my film so I can save it from the garbage pail."
Yeah.
And the person I was dealing with was actually great, and, uh he totally got it, and he said yes, and they let me buy it at the number that I had initially proposed.
Well, that's great.
So
That's really great.
and then everything just was wrapped up in 2 weeks after that.
That's great. That's great. That's really good. I mean, we had the experience of getting to somebody to agree, but then having it take another, it felt like about a year to get the paperwork
Uh,
because again, these none of these things are at the top of anyone's agenda, you know,
no.
uh, sadly, except ours. So, and they had all the materials and they knew where everything was. That's
They
impressive.
knew where everything they sent before I agreed to buy the film back, I needed to know what there was. So they sent me an inventory
Hmm, okay.
because I guess the elements had been ingested.
I guess so.
They'd been ingested and they
Right.
had been inventoried. And so I had gotten back in touch with Brett Wood at Kino, and he said he would love to restore and
Great.
re-release the film.
Great.
Although I wasn't sure actually that would happen. No, 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 that's not how it I contacted Dennis Doros and
Right.
I said, "Here's the inventory. Do I have what I need to
Mhm.
restore the film?" And he said, "Yes, go for it."
Right.
So I then completed the deal, and it was after it was all done, and I didn't even know if Kino was gonna want the film anymore because I hadn't
Well,
heard from him in a while.
right. Right.
And
Right.
Dennis then started helping me. I mean, Dennis guided me through the whole process at
Right.
every step of the way. He was amazing. And um, I just wouldn't have known this. I wouldn't have known any
Yeah.
of this information. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have known, how much a restoration costs. I wouldn't have known who to contact about things or
Yeah.
what to offer, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
he like divulged the information to me so I could make my own estimate.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean that's part of the problem is being kept in the dark about
Yeah.
many things. Um, and then the other film now is Songcatcher, and that's
Yeah.
in the somewhere in the works, right?
Well, Songcatcher is also out of distribution now, and we've Ellen Regus and Richard Miller, the executive producers, and I have been trying to find new distribution for a while. And um, Kino, um, again, Brett Wood had expressed interest in that film a couple of years ago, but then there was no response from Kino for a while.
Mhm.
And then out of the blue, after just in the past couple of weeks when Brett said he'd like to restore and re-release The Kill Off, he said he'd like to do Songcatcher also. So this is all, there's no
Right.
contract stuff. This is
Right.
all hope, what we're hoping
Sure.
for,
Sure.
what
Sure.
we're hoping will happen.
But that's great. But
Yes. So,
it's really good. And
I mean, I'm over the moon, and to have all the works at one company is really
yeah.
meaningful also. And, to be at that company
And
feels
to
good.
have preservation now, preservation copies should be,
Yeah.
you should stored if you've got stuff at the academy. I mean, that's
Yeah.
obviously a good home. Um, but that's the other part of this is that because we're working with so many films that we can't locate the original materials, especially the film stuff.
Well, and fair, I guess that's the upside of the films having, with the kill off of it having such a modest
Right,
life,
right,
really, is that everything just remained in its original place for all the years,
right,
you know.
right.
But it did take 4 years for me to,
Yeah,
it was a 4.5 year journey from finding out that Cinedigm owned it till.
right. So so you're the copyright of Little Joe is with you. The copyright now of Kill Off is with you.
Yeah.
Songcatcher, the copyright is not with you, but
I'll never own that. Ellen Regus owns it. She
got it,
financed the film, so she
got it,
owns it.
got it. Okay.
And Sophie, my last film, Sophie and the Rising Sun, which is still in release, that's owned by the woman who financed it also, a woman named Nancy Dickinson. So I don't know,
Hmm.
that will always belong to her estate.
And do you know the status of those contracts?
I don't actually. I was,
Yeah.
since all of this has been going on, I have it posted on my desk to reach out to her,
Yeah.
just to see what's going on. She is elderly, but her daughters both make films, so I'm sure that
Hmm.
when
Yeah,
she
I mean,
passes away, the film will be well cared for by her
it
daughters and
it seems to that's part of why we are trying to get filmmakers to be more aware, and actually agents, reps, when you're negotiating your deal, it sounds pretty basic for you as the director to know who owns the copyright to your film and where the materials are. That's
Well,
that.
I'm totally with, supporting Mary Harron's movement. I'm also
Yeah,
on the Eastern Directors Council, and I've been on the national board of the DGA. And I think if there's a way at little cost to involve the DGA, or at least
yeah,
start to have clauses in our contracts.
yeah,
It's such an easy ask, and it's such a kind of thing that would be easy,
yeah. And even if
yeah,
it's not even,
to grant directors.
exactly, and provide the information. Again, there are a million excuses to, as we know, to not do something. But even if they just simply provided that information to the guild, so that if you, as a member, wanted to know, that you could go there and find out. You know.
Yeah, and
Um,
I don't think the guild is, of course, very, needs to be very aware all these little things cost money,
mhm,
but I can't imagine it would cost very much to set up a database where,
yeah,
as when films are transferred, the company buying it is required to report to the DGA.
yeah. I mean, whether they will or not, one never knows. But again, if we can spare a couple of filmmakers this problem,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, and save the work. I mean,
yeah,
our era of filmmaking is just, was extraordinary, and there was, nothing like it before. And,
yeah,
the number of films that are gone is just
yeah,
tragic. It's
yeah.
terrible.
And if the DGA could, I mean, again, the notification doesn't seem to be that expensive to do. The idea of having a digital file that is, stored with an archive, and again, we can help find archives that will take this stuff. But there was a preservation program, which again, Nancy's and the DJ, we didn't really knew nothing about it, but it was about storing a 35 millimeter print. But
Right.
then we stopped making 35 prints, and so it's like, oh, that program is is useless. But
Right.
it's like we've lost the preservation of those movies in between. I mean,
Yeah, and it should be easier to, obviously, to store a digital file than
it
to
should
store
be.
35 million.
Yes, it really should be. Yes.
But yeah, I mean, the next thing I'm looking for is not just an archive to store the materials, but, someplace to pass the work on to.
Right, right, exactly.
That's kind of the next thing I would like to do. So, you know, it's again,
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for sharing the story.
our favorite topic.
We like to say that, all of these stories, I mean, that they're each one is unique, but each one has something to teach us. So, um, you
Well,
know,
I'm just so grateful, I'm really grateful that Missing Movies, that you and the other um, uh, people on the board, Ira, Nancy,
yeah.
Dennis, and Mary, formed this because there was such a need for it. And honestly, without it, this wouldn't have happened for me.
Oh, well, that's great.
You
That's
know,
really great.
so.
All right. Well, thank you.